go ahead and get started. We're running just a little bit late, but that's fine. Good morning and welcome to Digital Inclusion and Community Media. My name's Mary Beth Henry, and I'm thrilled that you all are here. And I know you've been here for a few days probably, but welcome to Portland.
Been fun.
We've got a great panel here with Shauna Edson from Salt Lake City Library and Seth Ring from Metro East. And I'll introduce them in a little bit. What I thought I would do, because I've noticed that people might have differing ideas of the definitions of some of the terms that we often use, and I thought it would be very helpful by way of a kind of an overview if I reviewed some of the terms that you call There's two hands, that's not too bad. So that's really a group that provides a unified voice for home broadband access, public broadband access, personal devices, and local technology training and support programs. They really are working with folks from around the country to definitions so that when we go to advocate at Congress or to our state legislatures, we have a common definition of what we're talking about. So, and yesterday actually somebody asked in one of the sessions, well, what does equity mean? So digital equity ensures all individuals and communities have the information technology capacity needed for full participation in our society, democracy, and economy. And this definition may evolve with time, but for now, with the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, that's what we're going with. You've heard the term digital divide. Well, that's really just the difference or the gap. For people who have easy access, like probably many of you in this room, and have devices and you have the skills, and those who don't. And there are still many people in our country, not just in rural areas, though the numbers are higher there, but in urban areas who don't actually have a hardwired broadband connection to their home. And I know many of us have cell phones, but have you ever tried filling out a job application or writing a paper or preparing your resume on a cell phone? It's not an easy thing. So digital inclusion refers to the activities necessary to ensure that all individuals and communities, including the most disadvantaged, have access to and use of information and communications technologies. So really digital equity is our goal, and then digital inclusion are kind of the activities that we use to reach our goal. And I think it's really important that we understand that there's 5 elements to digital inclusion. It isn't just having a device and a good broadband connection. We need access to digital literacy training, and we need technical support. How many of you non-engineers have ever had a technical issue working in your home office with your computer or your broadband? I have. I like the idea of technical support. And then also it's really important that we have online content that's relevant to all the different constituencies that we have in our community. And again, we can thank the National Digital Inclusion Alliance for developing these definitions. Okay, why does it matter? Because broadband infrastructure supports and enables everything. It's really foundational. Digital skills underpin nearly every aspect of our work and life today. Economic opportunity, democracy, healthcare, education, environment. And I thought it was very interesting at Ohio State University, their policy center on urban and rural affairs, came up with this very conservative figure of $1,850, saying just by having a broadband connection, it's worth that much to a household. And then finally, many of us still don't have a hardwired broadband connection in our homes. Now the figures, you know, you might have seen 1 in 6, 1 in 4, 1 in 10. Admittedly, those numbers seem to be floating, but certainly it's very difficult today to rely on the current Federal Communications Commission for good data, because they are pretending that this issue has just gone away. So what does it take to achieve digital equity? Well, we need to have low-cost broadband at home. We need to connect training with relevant content, low-cost computers, public access computing centers. Many people use libraries because they exist in most communities across the country. Regional collaboratives and initiatives to create partnerships to help address the specific needs of any given community. Funding for program sustainability, that's always an issue, but also outcome-based evaluation. What is effective? Are we evaluating what really works so that we know that we're achieving our outcomes? And then a whole community strategy involving businesses, nonprofits, providers, local governments, everybody. We'll hear more from Shauna later on the panel, but I wanted to just emphasize that libraries really do play a key role. They're becoming more, not less popular in the digital world. They're really invaluable in promoting digital inclusion. And I, for one, who travel a lot to rural areas, for connectivity, I rely on going to the local library in Custer, South Dakota when I need a connection, because you don't have much connectivity in a lot of rural areas. And then finally, just throwing out some ideas for potential roles for community media, and we'll hear more specifically about what Metro East is doing and how creative and innovative they are with partners in addressing digital inclusion. Being a part of, or I believe that community media organizations are actually ideally situated because of your reach deep into the community for helping spearhead local digital inclusion coalitions. Community media centers have been teaching technology skills since inception. So that's another potential role, teaching digital skills. Partnerships. Maybe your strength is in A, but you see this partner over here whose strength is B, and C is over there. By partnering, you can create and provide the whole package. Advocacy. Community media, you all are fabulous advocates, and this is another area where there is a really important role for community media. And I bet you when we get to the Q&A, all of you in here are going to come up with some other ideas about potential roles for community media. Well, let's move on now to Shauna Edson, who is the Digital Inclusion Coordinator for Salt Lake City Library. She also has just been appointed to be a fellow with the National Digital Inclusion Alliance. And for those in this area, or even not, if you had a fine experience with this conference, next April, the National Digital Inclusion Alliance's annual conference called Net Inclusion is going to be held in Portland, and we'd love to have you come back. Yeah.
Can you tell people just what your background is real quick? Just like why you're qualified to talk about?
I'm not. I continue to learn. I worked for about 25 years in community technology with the City of Portland, and helped with partners start the Digital Inclusion Alliance and develop the Digital Equity Action Plan, which is our foundational policy guide in our region that both the Multnomah County Commission and the Portland City Council then approved. I also recently did serve as a senior fellow with the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, and I'm very passionate about potential roles for community media in this ecosystem, and also organizational development. And those fit really well because we're in a time of change. And this is a potential area where I think community media could play an incredible role. Now I spend a lot of time camping and gardening and get drawn in because I love this area, I'm passionate about it, and you people are really fun. But I'm kind of retired. All right, Shauna, let's give it up.
Thank you, Mary Beth. I'm so excited to be here today and be part of this conference and be able to talk about digital inclusion and part of this panel as well. Digital inclusion is something that I've been passionate about for a long time. It came to my attention when I was an undergraduate student. I was a single mom trying to go to school and work a few jobs, and a lot of my assignments were online, and I could only turn them on online, and that meant that I had to go use a university library or find another public computer lab because I couldn't afford internet in my home. So I was trying to drag my kids and going around to public computer labs and get stuff turned in, and I realized that was really crappy. And I also realized that the work that I had to do to get grades and pass my classes it took a significant more amount of time than some of the other folks. I realized there were a lot of people who aren't connected in a lot of ways, and just all the different impacts that it can have on folks' lives is important. So my advisor said, well, if it's something, that you're upset about, you should do something about it. So here I am. Talking about it for the past several years. I work as, like Mary Beth said, as a fellow for the National Digital Inclusion Alliance. I do conference presentations and other sort of consulting and advising with them. I'm the Digital Inclusion Coordinator for the Salt Lake City Public Library as well. So my job there is to address and create digital inclusion programming for the 8 branches that our library has. We serve about 20,000 community members in Salt Lake City. And I'm also the chair for Utah Communities Connect, which is a statewide digital inclusion alliance for Utah. So I'm going to start talking. Mary Beth did a great introduction to the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, the NDIA. Just going to go a little bit more in depth. One of the biggest things about digital inclusion is that it's truly a cross-sector thing. We need folks from all sorts of different organizations and all different disciplines and all different academics and nonprofits and government workers. It really takes a full community to be able to address digital equity. And probably most of the folks in here are already doing digital inclusion work. We're just talking about it in different ways. So we're trying to increase the vocabulary and the way people are talking about it. So the aim of the National Digital Inclusion Alliance is to develop and empower a community of practice of on-the-ground digital inclusion providers. And to do that, to develop and empower or engage with affiliates and national partners to develop or identify local, state, and federal policies that could impact financially and politically local digital inclusion programs, to educate policymakers, the media, and potential partners of the necessity of digital equity and the work of local digital inclusion programs, and then to support the development of research and evaluation that can inform public policy and digital inclusion programs. So the National Digital Inclusion Alliance does a lot of advocacy. I would recommend checking out their website to learn more about some of the things that they've done. They go to Washington, D.C. a lot and talk about digital inclusion. And as Mary Beth said, we have our Net Inclusion Summit is here in Portland next year. It's a great way to learn more about digital inclusion, and I would love to see some more community media folks there and some panels that involved community media. And then we also have Digital Inclusion Week. If you're interested in becoming involved with that, it's a way to, mostly involves a social media campaign around different types of folks working in digital inclusion. Okay, so the Salt Lake City Public Library, I'm going to shift over to the library. The libraries have been long-standing anchor institutions as in addressing digital literacy. We have public computer labs, free Wi-Fi, computer classes, and we share a mission with community media or open access to information and knowledge, and as well as information literacy. The Salt Lake City Public Library has been having computer classes for over 10 years in Salt Lake City. But we realized that our attendance was starting to drop and people weren't coming to the same types of classes that they used to. And that information literacy that they were seeking in digital literacy was shifting, and we were kind of not keeping up with the curve as far as that's happening. Most people coming in they had a desire and a need for one-on-one immediate attention. So computer classes didn't work for folks who needed to fill out a job application that day, or a resume, or apply for housing or things like that. So to help address this more immediate need, we created the Tech League volunteer program. So we sought out our community members to help us address this one-on-one need. We have over 50 volunteers who provide thousands of hours of one-on-one computer assistance and digital literacy education for patrons coming into our branches. And this was a need that we didn't have the staff capacity to reach. It was a need that was going unserved. We also realized all of the barriers that people have to coming into libraries and using public computer labs. And so reaching out and working with community partners is a way to help reach folks that weren't coming in, can share resources, share spaces, as well as community knowledge. So I have this little video about one of our partners.
What?
Sorry.
My name is Sango. I am from Congo. I live in USA. 1 year, 3 months. In my country, farmer. I work humanitarian center, Santa Cruz. Kwangu kulikuwa makompyuta, sikukuwa na hii kompyuta, nilikuwa bure tu. Alikuja kwangu kuniambia, aseme Sangu napenda upate TV. Ule ndio mwenye alikuja. Tuende kule library upate TV. Nikakuja. Kulikuwa maisha magumu.
It's difficult for newly arrived refugees coming to the United States to find stability without access to affordable technology and internet. We live in a time when access to devices and internet is essential for everyday life.
Ninajua kuandika jina langu kompyuta, sijui vingine.
Digital literacy education provides opportunities for refugees to close this digital divide, which has brought about programming such as the Tech Mentorship Program and access to devices.
From start to end, it can range from anywhere from teaching them how to type, teaching them how to use the keyboard, teaching them how to use the internet, basically becoming good digital citizens to use technology in a very productive and safe way.
We have an emphasis on gender equality in this program, ensuring every member of a household has access to technology they need to learn and grow with their families.
Yuta nimeshakuwa na simu, yuta nimeshakuwa na computer.
He gave us that computer because we have to study, doing homework and typing and do other things. Watch videos, watch music.
Who uses the laptop the most?
Most? You. No. You two guys use it.
You.
Only me? Yeah. No.
Do you still have family that lives in Congo?
No, they're all in Tanzania.
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 Yeah.
Do you use the laptop to talk to them in Tanzania?
No, we use phone.
Nilifurahi.
He said she was happy.
Happy.
Okay, so it's hard to follow Sanga's smile. Like, it's my favorite thing. I want to watch that video. So Salt Lake City is a refugee receiving city. I believe there's 11 or 13 across the United States. So we have, in the past year, it's decreased significantly, but traditionally we have about 2,000 refugees arriving annually. So the city library partnered with the International Rescue Committee to pair one of our Tech League volunteer mentors with the newly arriving families to be able to teach them basic digital literacy. It's really hard to function in our society without having an email, going through Google Maps and learning how to navigate a city, using public transportation, being able to communicate with friends and family all around the world, and all sorts of different things. And at the end of this program, the RSC clients would receive a laptop. So that's just one of our partners that really help us work to reach folks that wouldn't otherwise necessarily be coming into our spaces. Another one of our partners, I was really excited to be able to tell all of you folks about some cool new partnerships with some community media organizations in Salt Lake City, but the contracts haven't been signed, so I am not allowed to talk about them yet. But some of the ways that we are partnering with our local radio station, which is KRCL 90.9. Our Marmalade branch and KRCL have worked on multiple projects together. Some of them are ballot talks, a democracy series, and town halls. KRCL Radio is looking for a welcoming, agenda-free place to seek out information, get questions answered, and meet other neighbors, which is exactly what our library is all about. The library has benefited greatly from the journalists and connections that KRCL provides. Our events are also recorded and later broadcasted on the radio, which allows us to have even greater exposure and access to information in the community. The KRCL radio station also uses our sound booth in our creative lab. It's open the first Saturday of every month. They broadcast a topic and invite community members to come into our library, and they record comments about a specific topic and then use that in their broadcast. So libraries are shifting most libraries are now starting to have creative labs and maker spaces, which is a change. Libraries like community media are also going through a transformation. We're very much about books. We always will be about books, but we are also becoming creative spaces with digital media. I was just at a summit at Harvard University for library professionals, and I heard that by 2021, the National Archives will no longer be accepting print materials. It will all be digital. So we can't ignore that the digital world is growing. So one of these ways that libraries are working to address this is creative labs and maker spaces, where we work to offer free access to different technologies that people might not have access to otherwise. Most libraries are starting to have all of the equipment to record audio and visual, green screens, access to video editing software, and other things like that. One of the goals of our creative labs, we want folks, as we're shifting into more 21st century skills, we want people to be thinking critically about the technology that they're interacting with. And we want people to be inspired to become creators instead of just users, and to increase the digital equity, digital visual capital, who is represented in the digital world, and what does that mean? So one of the ways that we're working towards that is through these spaces. We also made a big mistake. We used demographics and a couple of small focus groups to come up with some programmings in some of our library branches where folks in this city are the least connected and have the least access to technologies in their homes. And we came up with a great series of computer classes to do in these branches. Nobody came, nobody came. And couldn't figure out, what did we do wrong? You know, we thought this was the need. Why isn't anybody coming? And it turns out that even though these folks didn't have access in their homes and didn't have computers in their homes, they were digital wizards. They were just using technology in a way that we didn't realize. They're using tablets and phones like crazy for everything. So we decided to shift a lot of our programming. While it's essential to still offer basic digital literacy, we realized that people want to have the opportunity to use a technology that they're familiar with to do more things. So we started creating workshops where people can create music using apps, and having a lot more of our content being app-based. So we came up with show and tech kits, and we use these for outreach at locations, all of our branches and outreach and events. We have virtual reality, illustration on tablets, creating videos using tablets, digital storytelling, creating that oral archive of local histories. So really the shift is coming to recognize where people are and creating that opportunity to tell stories and collect stories. The last thing I wanted to talk about was Utah Communities Connect. And this is one of the ways Mary Beth talked about individuals being able to be involved in digital inclusion work. And I feel like community media isn't always represented in these alliances. Most digital alliances start with community members. Utah Communities Connect began in January of 2018. It started when Salt Lake City was selected as a Connect Home USA community, and several organizations worked together to kick off an event. The event garnered enough interest in digital inclusion in Utah, and local governments, libraries, housing authorities, academics, nonprofits, and private industry stakeholders formed Utah Communities Connect. Most of these alliances are open to all types of community members, and they're mostly based off of volunteer time. So it's really driven by folks who see the need and are passionate about addressing digital equity. So that would be another way that you could get involved with digital inclusion. So that's what I have.
So while Seth is getting his materials ready, look, he is the Emerging Leader Award by ACM. He needs a round of applause just for that. You can check out all his cool things. And he's a new father of a 4-year-old named Sam.
There he is.
4-month-old.
Mr. Snuggles,
Yes.
right there.
He's got a lot going on.
Okay, I realize this is the end of the conference. Thank you guys for sticking with it. I appreciate it. I just want to show you guys a little video about what we do at Rockwood DIY. So we're here out at Rockwood DIY, which is Rockwood Digital Inclusion and Youth. And our goal is to bridge the digital gap so that everybody has access to the
same opportunities as other people. You see them over the course of 5 weeks really become more comfortable with the equipment itself and not afraid to start doing things on their own. They'll start clicking off into their own websites.
Changing language.
Pay your bills.
Like Google, Chrome.
Creating your own space online. And upon completion of this program, they get a free computer.
Working together made something really cool happen.
We use video games to inspire young people about their future and use the games that they love to play as a catalyst for interest in activities that we believe they should be spending their time on anyway. The education system misses when they start with, we want you to do X, Y, and Z, instead of starting with, what are your interests, what are your desires, and can we do that together? And for many of those kids, well, that's video games. That's a platform for success in youth development, no matter what sphere we're talking about. In this case, we're talking about technical education.
The students wrote songs and then produced the tracks and recorded all the instruments and voices that they needed for their songs over the course of the first week. And then for the second week, they conceptualized and directed and filmed and edited their own music videos.
I feel like everybody loves music. And for kids like us in Rockwood to have something like this, like the tools that you guys provide for us, I feel like it's really important because we can get our, our story out. We can tell about what we're going through in these streets and stuff.
I'm here to teach classes about phones and tablets to anyone in the community, but we have a lot of seniors here.
I think there really is a need for classes like this. I think that a lot of us who didn't grow up with these kinds of things, we're just kind of overwhelmed by them.
The elders that we serve and we work with, particularly the folks that you've connected us with, have are so gracious. They're so pleased to be supported without someone trying to attach an extra service or an extra fee. All parties coming in just to want to learn, just to want to get better, just to want to improve the community.
that's like a little sliver of what we do. I'm the Director of Education and Volunteers at Metro East. We are a community media center. And we take the term media very liberally, as you can see. I think a lot of sort of more traditional past cable access center activity has been based around television production. And we've really started to branch out from that. Because that's what the population, we're especially trying to reach underserved groups, and that's what that population is looking for. So our mission at Rockwood DIY is to close the digital divide. This is a Para Ti Mujer event that we hosted. It was during Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We tried to make everything sort of more accessible to people. So a lot of the limitations of the groups we're working with are, they're working parents that, they have kids, they have to make dinner, they're working 2 or 3 jobs. And so we tried to make it as easy as possible for people to come to Rockwood DIY. We provided dinner, we provided childcare, and we tried our best to make it so that people could make it. And also for our computer class, our Welcome to Computers class, there was a free computer at the end of it that we partnered with Free Geek right here, which is a local computer refurbishing group in Portland. They recycle computers. And so we partner with Free Geek to give out a free computer at the end of the class. Wonderful. So anyway, our partnerships are really critical in getting stuff done. Our partnerships are really critical in getting stuff done. City of Gresham provided us with a building that since then it is getting demolished, and we're eventually going to get a different space. But we worked with the Multnomah County Library to co-program the Welcome to Computer classes. IRCO is Immigrants and Refugees Community Organization. We worked with them to get immigrants and refugees into our classes. And then Centennial School District has a child care program, so that we actually partnered with them to get people to take care of our kids. Isabel and, let's see, I'm trying to remember, Bianca were our child care people. And then Make Think Code, Nandini Rangathon, that was originally on this panel but withdrew. She's with Pacific Northwest College of Art. We paired with them to do a Make Think Media workshop. So what Mary Beth was talking about is like finding other partners that have like a skill that dovetails nicely with your programming is a really good way to get things done. We did our free computer class. We do a smartphones for seniors class, and as we mentioned before, we partnered with Portland Youth Builders. They are an alternative high school for youth, so this is a really cool opportunity. You have these youth that maybe haven't done super well in traditional school systems, but then you give them a hand computer, their smartphone, and they're badass at it, right? So then they can actually share that with their elders, and there's no weird generation. It's not like they're working with mom and dad and they probably argue. It's like with grandma and grandpa kind of, and it's actually a really good relationship. The kids feel really good. The seniors feel really good. We've mentioned the Game It Up camp where they learn how to code. The music video camp is a really good opportunity for kids to not only did they write their song in Ableton Live, they recorded it, then they do a music video out of it. And then this Make Think Code camp. How many people have seen Makey kits? They're pretty cool. You can turn a banana into a piano. I can't quite explain it. You have to look it up. But it's really cool, kind of it was like an introduction to engineering skills and coding skills and all this kind of gaming stuff. And then just recently we paired with Rockwood Prep Academy to do a podcasting camp, and then also with City of Gresham has a Pathways to Careers program. So we paired with professionals of color to have kids that were mostly students of color see what potential careers they could have down the line, because they could see somebody that looks like them being successful. And in the future, we're doing a VR camp week after next. I think Rockwood DIY ultimately is about opportunity. We are trying to connect people to skills that they can eventually port to jobs or higher education. And that's really what, that's the thrust of it, is we want people to be able to reach prosperity, and we might just be a small milestone on the way, but our ultimate goal is to have CTE programming, career technical education, and credits, whether it be a digital badge or like credit through local high schools or community colleges, so people can use that to get jobs. Because that's what the demographic we're working with, that's what they want. They want good jobs, and they want to be happy. They want their kids to have good jobs. And we're trying to figure out ways that within our bailiwick, which is media, how can we offer that to them? That's what I got.
So we've got plenty of time for Q&A, and I'd be curious in terms of the different roles that we talked about, teaching the skills, advocacy, the coalitions, if any of the audience members have other ideas in terms of potential roles for community media. Your imagination that's your only limit in terms of thinking of ideas. Now we got a hand in the back.
I mean, I always think of us as very relatively stable organizations, like anchor institutions in our community, and the easiest thing we can do is help convene people. Whether or not we actually take a leadership role or whatever, just getting people in the libraries who are working on these issues with other nonprofits and just saying, hey, we should meet each other. I think we're just natural conveners. So, I mean, in some ways I think centers are often afraid to do this kind of work, but the safest thing you could do is just be like, we can see 40 people in our studio, come on in and let's meet each other and see where there's potential alignment.
Plus you're getting them in your studio, so
sure.
They can find out about you.
Yes. I wonder, is there a channel being developed to like a learning development channel to teach technology in this free space? Since we have public access, why isn't there more content being developed around teaching? Because we still have homes where television is one of the primary sources of information. So we should be creating information to meet those needs. There's a lot of people on tablets and phones, but there's still a lot of old, and I think of more of seniors, because I'm in a situation where I'm living with my 80-year-old parents, and I'm finding that they want to learn technology. My mother is a cell phone freak, but still the TV is the main source of information. So if they could learn some of the things that they need to in this technology through our public access channels and develop a network that we share around the country of, the simplest ideas. And I know that's kind of like a hybrid YouTube, but has anybody looked into?
Well, that's you better get working on that
That's a great.
I come from Brooklyn, so we have a very robust public access channel.
If I may,
sure.
At Metro East, developing an open source app that is right now we're doing over-the-top videos, streaming all the video with, and doing it for any station that wants to participate. It takes about 5 minutes. Okay, then we have using a digital asset management system. We want to be able to connect every center in the United States so we can all share each other's stuff.
I need to get your information because I'm the digital asset coordinator of Frick.
Well,
and I'm building a dam and I'm having a hard time. And
can I make your life easier?
Thank you.
Yes.
At the Busby Group, we do a lot of work around the country with communities that are going through franchise renewal. And I want to recommend that video that you showed, because when we show that video and we've been blessed to get a copy of it so we can show it to focus groups around the country, jaws drop, people's eyes light up. They, not only of the community, but also of the staff. The kind of stuff that is going on there is just what gets them really going. And one of the places we did that is one of our clients is in Missoula, Montana, about 500 miles from you. And folks, you've got to bond with the libraries in town. Get this story. Right now, the Missoula Public Library is building a new library. And the Missoula Cable Access Television Group is going to be moving from its less than ideal space to the ground floor of this new library. And if you go to MissoulaPublicLibrary.org, you can see the virtual tour of the library, including MCAT's facilities in there. So amazing things that can happen if you bond with your libraries. And that's one of the better stories of just that. So go for it with the libraries, however levels you can. And again, what you folks are doing here at Metro East, again, what you're doing is resonating around the country. People are really getting excited about that idea of what more we can do in our digital inclusive era to make these things happen with concrete examples. Oh my goodness, it's amazing what happens.
Well, it's fun too, because I got to play video games.
That so comes across to the people in the audience. They just say, yes, how do we light people up like this?
Do you have any stories about how that relationship got built?
It's very personal. It's persistent effort by the executive director and board members to work with and do other types of mutual things, like to help them. Missoula has a central public library, but it is an incredible reach. I mean, my God, the square miles that they have to cover includes far beyond, far outlying library little branches. And Missoula Cable Access has been bonding, linking up with that library to have some of their equipment available in their interlibrary loan system. Get this. So that if you need to check out a camcorder or two that are way in the far extreme of the county, the library will deliver it out there along with books that go out there. It's just, you got to sort of think way outside the box. And my goodness, what the libraries can offer. Because folks, they've been doing what we're all about too, but they've for years been doing with the printed word, but now they are overflowing into areas that we're all about too. And so they want our assistance, because what you were talking about, what's going on in Salt Lake, they see the Missoula folks being right in the library, right this way here for you folks who want to do, you talked about maybe having some video editing software and stuff on your computers at the library. My goodness, here's the staff who can be used to train you. So that partnership with the library is so in the forefront of the mind of the people there.
I think I hear you saying that it's a personal thing. It's like a bunch of strategic choices over time.
That's where it starts.
Just like how the lack of that kind of coordination in a lot of situations where maybe a library actually builds out studios but is not connected or doesn't have a relationship with the public access center or the community radio station in that community. It's just like it's a people issue.
I think as this library has been growing, especially in the last 5 years, they see the role of media, and they wanted to do this in a very effective, cost-effective way. And they see that there's already a media center in town. How can we develop a partnership so you can help us? So it's a lot of that type of work directly with the people there to get them comfortable with you. It's us.
Sabrina, I think it really does start. It does start with people.
Yeah. Well, absolutely, but I'm wondering if we could drive it up a notch by. Well, I know Mike has had some conversations with the Public Library Association, and Sean, I'm sure we could talk more about this. But I think it's so awesome when individuals in various towns do that relationship over time, but
it seems like a good time now to institutionalize that and make those opportunities.
Definitely recommend, as you know, all of us in our field are not about hoarding our information. So online, go to MCAT in Missoula and find out how to contact the executive director. There's Joel, and just say, I want to pick your brain. How did you do this? This is amazing. You're going to be, your facility is. So anyway, check it out.
Yeah.
Hi. My name is Walt Kosmowski. I'm with BevCam, which is a local access TV station in Beverly, Massachusetts. And I think this sentence in your session description is really profound. With the advent of the internet, it's difficult to find a life task that does not require some level of broadband connectivity and digital literacy, as digital skills now underpin nearly every aspect of work and life. The question I'd like to ask is the NDIA or other organizations like it, I don't know if there are other organizations with similar missions, what is your membership like? And the question is, are there any large corporations, or specifically any large digital media companies, Time Warner, Universal, Disney, that are members of this? And if not, why not? And we have become, and this is my own personal statement, we're no longer a government or a country of the people, by the people, for the people, but of the rich, by the rich, for the rich. The oligarchs, okay? So are the oligarchs part of closing this divide? Do they have any skin in the game? And if not, why not?
Well, on some level, so Comcast, to their credit, has like a $10 internet basics plan. They come to our digital inclusion meetings in Portland, to my knowledge, but it seems like it's not. It's just kind of like throwing kind of breadcrumbs, and so I will say that in our meetings, there are often the most contentious moments are when you say something that pisses off the Comcast rep or something, So it's they are present, but I think they're worried about what could we potentially do to their revenue stream. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that as well. We with Utah Communities Connect, we have Google Fiber, Comcast, and lots of other small internet providers in rural areas are part of it, and they do attend. As far as, and that's all based on volunteer time. As far as the National Digital Inclusion Alliance goes, affiliates, being an affiliate is not open to private ventures. They can be a friend of the organization and follow along and be part of the listserv, but that is not the main mission.
That's not the issue, though, but are they doing something at the grassroots? So Seth, you're saying that they give a $10 discount, but that still goes to the money flow. It's not getting at the root of the issue. Is how do we educate people to be computer literate and have that accessibility? They've got to put skin in the game, and if they're not, you think that it would be in their best interest, because ultimately all these people that you're teaching and you're cultivating become users and buyers.
I do have to give Comcast credit, because so the $10 Internet Essentials is $10 and you get 15 megabits per second, which is that's not broadband speed, which is 25, but it's something. And on top of that, we've had a lot of issues with our computer classes. Like, people come home, they have a computer, but they don't know how to set up Wi-Fi. And so actually through Internet Essentials, a tech can come out and set up their Wi-Fi for them. So I do have to give them some credit. CenturyLink used to have something similar, but they've since then stopped doing it. I think partly because of FCC. What is the name? It's like the home. NDIA had the Connect Home. There was actually like some law that was making cable companies do this and internet companies do this, and with a weakened FCC.
The Lifeline program?
Yeah, the Lifeline program has since then been disbanded. So it's not a good climate for enforcing those kind of things.
But I think you bring up a good point, and I think at the local level, as Seth said, for the digital inclusion network in this area, providers were invited, businesses were invited, nonprofits, local government, and you know, you do what you can and try to build those relationships and you know, do what you can. I think at the national level, you know, sometimes the providers might provide some sponsorship for the annual conference, net inclusion, but they could always put more skin in the game, and I think we just can't give up. We just have to keep asking, and the best place to start, I think, is at the local level, because those are the folks that you might interact with. And I'd go further and say yesterday, Dana Healy in the session in the afternoon on Poised to Prosper, you know, how to situate your community media organization for the future, she asked some really good questions. Do you know your mayor or your local council members, and what are they passionate about? Do a little bit of homework so that you can actually, when you talk with them, you know, have some of the small talk that can lead to some big talk. You know, do your homework about who the power players are in your community. I think community media already does a good job at that, but then cultivate it. And she asked the audience members, when was the last time you interacted with such and so?
And part of why that's important, I'm going to throw a nutso idea out there. Portland is looking at making a local broadband network, a municipal broadband network. One of the things that was suggested is that they roll PEG fees into a municipal broadband network. So into the fee, so like it'd be a reduced cost, but people would still pay their $2 PEG fee or whatever. So if you, I think that's why it's so important to be working with city council members and all that type of thing, because if you want to make that kind of thing happen, which I think many PEG centers would want that because they want stable funding, like it's a good idea to be working with them frequently.
I'm sorry I wasn't here earlier, but Shauna, did Shauna say how NDIA has only been going for like 4 years? And before that, the field hadn't convened for like 8 years. It's been moving at this lightning pace, which is really impressive.
Yeah, there's over 370 affiliates in 44 states that have joined in 4 years.
How about some other questions for the panelists or anything to share? What, Julie in the back?
Seth, can you pull up, not this slide that you had funding from us on, but your next slide? I think it cut out of the funders that you...
Oh, that was partners.
And like the 99 Girlfriends and OCF and those folks.
Sorry, I unhooked the thing, but I can talk about it if you want.
Yeah, because I think for me, one of the things that's a real benefit on that sustainable funding for community media centers goes to what the success you all have had in the interest on the part of the philanthropic community to fund these kinds of programs, where I think community media in the past, at least in our area, hasn't had that kind of success with the philanthropic funders, with foundations, and folks like that. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think so. Justin Harn is the president of Open Signal here, and he phrased it like, people won't fund free speech, but they will fund equity. And that's our digital inclusion movement. The Rockwood DIY stuff is all about equity and inclusion. And we've actually raised, I don't know the exact figure. It's over $100,000 for Rockwood DIY. 108. See, she's got it. But it is something that's very fundable, and on top of that, it helps us complete our mission, which is inspiring diverse voices.
Yeah, that's one thing. People will fund that. I mean, that's been our most fundable thing at Metro East, has been the Rockwood DIY project. People will fund that, and we've developed a narrative bank about the things that have been done there. We have the videos to show, and so it's easy to show. You've been there long enough that you have success, and you know, you have the numbers, the statistics of how many people you served, and anecdotes about how they feel about it, and the demographics of the people served, and really, it makes it a lot easier when you apply for future grants if you have all that information.
And the videos, so there's, you know, in Harry Potter, Mad-Eye Moody says, play to your strengths. I hope people remember this part. But anyway, like, that is one of our best strengths, is that we have media. And so when Rockwood DIY was first starting, I sent a haiku to Monica that said that I wanted to have interns do a behind-the-scenes film. They greenlit it, and every single one of our camps, we've had a behind-the-scenes film about it. Because the statistics show if somebody sees a film about something, they're more likely to purchase the product. Our product is equity and inclusion. All of our funders, we send those videos because it impacts their emotions, it tugs at their heartstrings. So I think that's another thing. When you were talking about advocacy, that's a perfect way to advocate for yourself. Make a film about the cool stuff that you're doing so that you'll make people cry and want to pay.
Well, right, what that video does is, and this is something community media has been doing from the beginning, and that's storytelling.
Yeah.
You're really telling your story very effectively using this particular medium.
Yeah.
I think there was another question over here, yeah.
Yeah, hi, I'm Antoine, Philadelphia. I wanted to, so one thing in Philadelphia is that's been really successful is that Comcast actually is the home Comcast, is the headquarters there, and it's actually supported the Technology Learning Collaborative, which is like the remnants of like VTOC, that program. But it's a collaborative that like Philly Camp, where I used to work, was a part of that. And we also work with the key spots that meet up, and they have a meeting every month, and they have there's a big conference. And you know, in a Comcast Foundation, they give like, I think it's like $10,000 to that supports that collaborative. You know, so it's, you know, it is helpful, but there's still like some things that I think we have to watch out when like working with corporations and big media, of course. So, and then they also have with their Internet Essentials programs. Yes, it does provide some access, but you know, there were a lot of hoops that people had to go through in terms of to get, you know, even Internet Essentials program. Like they had to disconnect their service for like 2 months and then be able to reapply and get Internet Essentials, you know, at this reduced rate. The question I do have a question for Shauna. Could you talk more about what the rescue? I saw people with rescue shirts on. Like, what does that mean?
It's the International Rescue Committee, the IRC. They're an international organization that works as they do refugee resettlement in the United States, and they work with refugees around the world. So I can't speak too much on them. They're one of our partners, but I'm not for them. But they have an in-depth website. They're very involved in digital inclusion in Salt Lake City. They're on the steering committee for the Alliance. They have one of the first full-time positions in Salt Lake City open right now for a digital inclusion coordinator for new refugee clients.
Yes.
I just hope that you didn't misinterpret my comment, because Shauna and Seth, I absolutely applaud you and commend you, and I'm in awe of the work you're doing. And somebody mentioned that your collaborative with the NDIA is just a few years old, and I commend you. And Seth, I mean, you're working at the grassroots level, you're working with immigrants from the Congo. I mean, I applaud you completely. I'm just suggesting that you know, the people with infinitely deeper pockets should have recognized this earlier, and you know, it's almost lack of, you know, access to the internet, access to digital literacy is almost an existential. I mean, you know, like the seniors you had, you know, they can't contact their hospitals or the insurance companies or whatever without access to the internet, right? You could just, so I commend you on that. I'm just saying that grassroots is great, and let's hope we can get that and get the big people involved and help with this effort.
I think part of the problem that I've encountered, there's a lot of people wanting to put money into this type of work in Salt Lake City, but being able to actually reach the people that we're trying to reach is not a quantitative thing. We don't have those big numbers. And if we do, it's a workshop where 200 people come, watch a PowerPoint, and we're like, we taught them digital literacy education. And that's not really how it works. So I think the conversation has to shift to how it's qualitatively affecting people's lives. And that's much harder to measure and much harder to report out for funding and stuff like that. So I think I do agree, it's a problem, and we need to work together to address it.
Well, regarding the philanthropic community, another point that was made yesterday by Rebecca Burrell of Open Signal was once they were able to get one foundation to give them some money, it was like an entree to others because they almost had the seal of approval. And they went through, and Metro East went through a very strategic process of identifying groups. I believe Marty said groups of 15. This was going to be our first 15 that we'll apply for and tell our story and try to get money. And then this is the next 15, and then there were the 15. It's kind of like college applications today. The reach, the far reach. But they were very strategic about it in his presentation and went for it and had some success. And now that one has or two have, then the others are kind of interested. So if you can, in your community, be strategic about who you might approach and it's equity, telling your story, you may have some success. It happened here, and we've been talking about philanthropic support for this area for at least the last 5 years. And they finally broke through the dam. Any other questions from folks? Yes?
I have more of a technical question for Seth about your smartphones for seniors class. Do you start with the very basics of turning the phone on to making calls, you go and then deeper into how to use certain apps? Do you go through the whole?
So we've had to pare it back because of people with Portland Youth Builders, these kids that they know every app inside and out, and we had to pare it back and be like, this is pinch to zoom. Yeah. This is how you click on this, and this is the app store. So absolutely, it needs to be. They call it scaffolding in education. So you have to have a scaffolded approach. So we really pared it back, and even accepted people that just had a regular dumb phone. It needs to be even people with a tablet. We brought our own tablets into. It has to be a very sort of it's kind of an unstructured learning environment. And the best part is the one-on-ones where the kids wander around and help out. And it starts very simply because getting into apps is really difficult. And most seniors, what I've heard from them is, I just want to be able to call somebody. And that's okay. And I think that's a really good take home. Even if we just do one class with a person for a week, that they know that much more than they did before. Even if now they just know how to turn on their phone and make a phone call, that's better than zero.
They feel safer, they feel more confident.
Yeah. And same thing with our computer classes. We had people that had never seen Google Maps. We had them show us pictures of where they were originally from in Somalia and that kind of thing. And it just opens this whole world. And even if we don't carry it to the very end, which we want to, even if we're just a milestone, we're still doing something.
Follow-up question on that, Seth? So with the Portland Youth Builders group, working with them, was there training that you all did with that group of youth to be able to then participate and support the seniors? How did that evolve for them to become trainers?
Well, so we worked with the lead at Portland Youth Builders on building the curriculum. And it was very sort of the first round was just sort of they made a curriculum, they brought it. But since then we haven't trained the youth. Metro East doesn't train the youth. Portland Youth Builders trains the youth. We are working more with coordinating with the groups that with ERCO and that type of thing and getting the people in the door.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Well, we have a few minutes, so if you have some specific questions, you want to chat with these folks, and I know these folks need to talk, so I think it could be worse than you have a few minutes to do what you like. Thank you for coming.